Hello all and welcome to today's beer review. It is 4/11, a bit later than I usually do my beer review, mainly because I had to go and fix one of my bird's wings. I was trying to catch him to inspect him, and he took off at the same time I grabbed him, and sorry Katsukuri. Yeah, I went and cleaned it up, and I tried to bandage it, but he's kind of takes it off every time I put it on. I guess I'm not a veterinary pro, and I'm also not going to spend $200 on a feral chicken. So we'll see. I've seen them undergo and live through much worse in the wild. So what are we reviewing today? Interestingly, we will be reviewing a bourbon barrel aged Imperial Stout. Which is perfect for this excessively humid, windless, alternating in between rainy and sunny afternoon. Perfect Imperial Stout weather. This is really... Hawaii is quickly losing... It's going in between sort of cold-ass, rainy winters to hot and humid summers with very little autumn. And, well, there's very little transition. It's going from sticky, itchy, hot to cold and rainy without much transitioning. Well, I'm kind of yammering on. So, this is from Honolulu Beerworks. It's a bourbon barrel aged. 8.5 ABV. I don't think there are any other adjuncts to it. And, well, let's get to reviewing this Imperial Stout. I don't really review many heavy stouts. Why? Well, for what I mentioned, weather. So I was, ooh. Wow, you can really smell that bourbon already. Build a little bit of a head here. It's very thick, very oily. Let's go straight to the head. Not that it matters much. Fairly thin, almost brownish tan head. Almost like licorice-like notes to it, very earthy. Licorice, anise. Wood. Dried fruits like rum raisins. I guess bourbon raisins would probably be a bit more apparent. And as you can probably tell, kind of boozy even in the nose. I'm wondering how boozy it's going to be in the mouthfeel. Coloration. Well, let's go and hold it up to daylight here. As you can see, not even going through the sunlight. Maybe just a slight hint of brown on the bottom there. But very opaque. Not very carbonated at all, as you can tell from the lack of head development there. Smells very strong, even for an 8.5. I got the balance just right. Perfect. I almost always do this so that it's either a little bit too warm or too cold. Wow, that's hella boozy. The whiskey the bourbon barrel aging is very apparent in this. There's booziness from the front to the mids and all the way into the finish, but not into the long. Well, actually, yeah, a little bit into the long finish as well. Kind of is really intense in the mids. And it's kind of distracting from the other elements of the beer. Very creamy base. Smooth and oily in a pleasant way on the palate. I suppose you could say creamy is a better way of putting it. Hella chewy is probably the descriptor I would use to go and describe the mouthfeel besides the immediate sensation on the palate. Very chewy. Feels like you're drinking bourbon-soaked bread, really. And it really goes straight to the head. Yeah. The slight roasty Caribe finish. Not dry at all. Not so coffee-like in the finish. I would say it's much more carob-like in the finish. Has anyone here ever had roasted carob before? Or, you know, roasted carob tea? Really good descriptor there. In the front, milk chocolate, raisins, almost like a raisinette kind of aspect there. High quality raisinette. I don't know of any kind of candies that use quality chocolate and, you know, quality raisins, but you know what I'm getting at there. There's an oak woodiness that's also in the start through the finish that is kind of, you know, is one of the flavors that's really concealed by the booziness. Oddly enough, I'm not getting much in the way of dimensionality of bourbon other than the sort of oakiness, including maybe also some charred aspects in the finish, which also could be the malting at the same time. I kind of have difficulty discerning, you know, a lot of the super dark malts with wood char, from wood char, with these bourbon barrel aged ones. Excuse me. I don't know if it's the alcohol hitting my head or, you know, weirdly, which is kind of contrary how it's always been to me. As it's warming up, it's getting less boozy, but it's definitely still going straight to my head right now. Some roasted coconut and vanilla is developing in the front. And the woodiness is kind of expanding in the back end. And is kind of coming stronger than the charred. Residual sweetness is, I haven't mentioned it yet, because obviously an Imperial Stout has a bit of sugar in it. Residual sweetness is probably growing at this point, and I would say it's on the sweet end for Imperial Stouts. Very desserty and thick. A lot of dried fruity notes are emerging in the mids to the finish there. Dry, not like red wine dry fruity notes, but I mean dried fruit notes. Dried fruit notes are really kind of booming out there. Dried stone fruit notes. Like black cherry. This is really getting to my head. Yeah, this is definitely a strong beer, to say the least. It's complex. The only real drawback that I can see is that it's it's not so overly boozy that you almost feel like an alcohol burn with it, but the booziness does tend to eclipse some of the more delicate nuances of the flavor, making it a bit more difficult to suss out. But otherwise, a pretty damn good and affordable bourbon barrel stout. Now, to fill my half growler was a little over $13. Which will, honestly, considering how boom I am right now, I would definitely say that half growler will take you to where you need to go and back. And I find it kind of interesting how it's on tap fairly easily around the islands, including Three Peaks, but they had a special bottle release party with only 200 bottles. And I guess that's because that's for the people who want to age it, and certainly aging will go and remove that boozy edge to the bourbon barrel. So maybe if you're one of the lucky 200 people who got the bottle, don't drink it right away. Age it. That's the purpose of getting it in the bottle. And definitely recommend. This is not my particular style of beer, but I'm enjoying it. Even though the weather is not for this kind of style of beer, I'm definitely going to be having some iced tea to kind of cool off a little bit and cleanse the palate, as it were. And this is edging on to 13 minutes. I can tell it's gone straight to my head because I'm just kind of running off the mouth. And just a little bit worried about my little feral rooster there. But I'm sure he's going to be okay. Like I said, I've seen them survive much worse in a while. I just feel kind of guilty because I'm responsible for his injury. Unintentionally, but still feel guilty. I should probably go and make like a chicken channel or something on YouTube or something. Yes, most of my life kind of revolves around books, chickens, and not so much beer and alcohol anymore. I'm way more sober than I used to be. So, that's your beer review for tonight, folks. Terminus Saturn, Bourbon Barrel Aged Imperial Russian Stout from Honolulu Beerworks. Definitely give it a try. Cheers.